Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sedacca, and you're listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. The show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. And as you know, I'm the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, a divorce and co-parenting coach. And the focus of my work is helping parents make the best decisions regarding their children before, after, and long after divorce, because co-parenting is something that doesn't have an ending. It just goes on for the rest of our lives, usually when we're divorcing and have children. So I like to talk to people who are experts in a variety of topics, who understand the dynamics that you're going through and helping to make the best decisions for your children at all points in the process. And today I'm very excited to be introducing you to someone who specializes in divorce as a realtor, because that's an actual certification, and it's an area that is growing in acceptability, because so many people realize that there are many challenges in making real estate decisions. Do I move? Do I stay? Who can afford to keep the house, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to talk to Robyn about all of that. So Robyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rosalind. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you're here too, because we haven't been talking about that. And as I mentioned to you right before we started, everyone who's divorcing has challenges in making real estate decisions, but I feel it's really even more significant when you're a parent and you have children, because not only are you being impacted by changes in where we're living, children are, and that can be even more dynamic and frightening and expensive, et cetera, et cetera. So first, let me ask you, how did you move into this arena, and how did you end up deciding to work with divorcing families?
Perfect. So me and my business partner, Cheryl Kaufman, have a regular real estate business where we do all the usual real estate transactions, but we uniquely specialize in helping clients who are going through a divorce or separation sell their matrimonial home or any other properties that they may have. My own difficult divorce propelled me into wanting to help others going through these difficult times of transition. My personal and professional experience has made me and my partner able to understand and service what people are going through during this very transitional, difficult, and emotional time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that the focus had come to that, because as you well know, there is a difference between just choosing to move versus the pressures on a family, a couple, to suddenly be making decisions due to a divorce, due to maybe differences in the amount of money that one parent has versus the other, and job differences, meaning one may be moving out of the region, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're talking to a couple who are contemplating divorce or in the midst of a divorce and they come to you, what are some of the things that you need to really get straight right from the beginning with them?
Well, I mean, the first two things that couples, when they're talking about getting separated, the main things that come to light are, what are we doing with the house and what is happening with the children? And very often, what is happening with the children feeders into what to do with the house. And very often, the initial instinct is, well, we have to keep the house. One party, whether they agree or disagree, one party feels that we need to keep the house to keep things as normal as possible for the children, and it's in the best interest of the children. And what we often say to our clients is, let's take a moment and really determine what is in the best interests of your children. There's different things to think about, because you think that staying in the house is in the best interest of the children, but remember, the children see the house as the family home. So they're very, in their minds, this is where mommy and daddy and us live. And so it actually may be more difficult for them to understand that now this house is just for mommy and us, or daddy and us, and not the normal family unit. So in fact, it actually may be more beneficial to the children for them to have two fresh new homes, and you can make it exciting for them to make their new rooms, etc., so that they can put those memories behind them. Not eliminate those memories, but my whole thing is, I believe that sometimes ripping off the Band-Aid is better than slowly taking it off and scratching away the scab, and then it grows back, and then scratching away the scab and it grows back. So that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect, which is even more important and will affect the children long-term, is, okay, so you went from a family unit, whether it be one income supporting the household or a dual income family, to now you're separated, and that one income is now being divided between the two, so each has half, or that dual income is now a single income. So does the person who wants to remain in the house, A, have the funds to buy the other person out of the house? And B, does that person have the financial ability to sustain the expenses of the house? We've seen couples where one is adamant on buying the other out, and they find a way, be it from a parent, a friend, the bank, whatever, to fund the purchase. But then when it comes down to the day-to-day expenses, they really don't have the financial capacity, and it brings more added stress. And what happens when you as a parent are stressed? Who feels that? The children.
Yes. Well, this is very eye-opening, because I have to admit that my natural instinct is what the first thing you said is, let's try to keep the family home for at least one parent, so that the kids have less moving and changes in their agenda. And on one level, that makes sense. But I think you make a very strong point, a very valid point, that in some ways, the feeling of being in a home and missing one parent can be very dramatic. And sometimes it's better to start over, start fresh all around, and everyone's excited about this is all new for everyone involved, and new beginnings. So I love that option. And of course, the other side of it, which is very dramatic, is the fact that affordability is more than just buying. You have to afford the lifestyle that goes with living in the home. It's not only the mortgage, there's a multitude of other factors. So it's great. Do you work with both parents, or do you work with one parent usually when you're representing them?
So ideally, we would like to work with both parties. And we understand that most people know a real estate agent, or they have connections with one. We strongly advise that when you're going through this, that you actually do not work with anybody that you know, because no matter what, if you know a realtor, that realtor has some kind of emotional connection to one or both of you. And you really need to have an unbiased, grounded person who can get through all the emotions for you. But having said that, both parties do not have to have the same agent. And unfortunately, and to this day, I still don't understand, so often one of the biggest things that couples face is arguing over who is going to represent them as a realtor for their home. And they spend money with their lawyers going to mediators or arbitrators to cut, like, one presents 3 and the other presents another 3, and then they have to agree. And I just don't understand why you're spending all that time, effort, and money when each of you can have your own representation, as you should anyways. That way you know that your interests are being serviced. And yes, it might cost you slightly more because you're responsible for your share of the commission. But in the grand scheme of things, it's going to cost you less time and money with the lawyers than fighting over this.
Yeah.
And also you should use somebody who specializes in this, because there's a lot of different things that most realtors are not aware of that are involved in a separation. Just like, for example, we tell our clients, you need to figure out who's getting what before moving day, because I can't tell you how many times it's happened on moving day.
Really?
They're on and they're fighting over who's getting the treadmill or the piano or whatever. So an everyday realtor would take that for granted, because that's not something you have to deal with when you're just moving a home. So there's lots of things that have to happen. Often, they can't agree. They get an offer and they can't agree on the price. So it has to go to a mediator or arbitrator. We have experience with that. So, again, most people know realtors, but that doesn't mean that they know somebody who is specialized in this. And it's like I say to a lot of people, would you go to your GP if you're diagnosed with cancer to treat your cancer?
Exactly. Makes total sense. Can you get a little deeper into that? So what are some of the areas that divorce specialized realtors focus on that we don't see from your traditional realtor who doesn't specialize in that? What other areas come up that divorcing people need to be aware of that are going to come up?
Right. So first of all, one of the main things, and we try and ensure that our clients have a separation agreement in place before the actual closing of the house. Because if they have not come to an agreement of the division of assets, then what happens is they sell the property, the funds from the property come into the lawyer, but the lawyer can't disperse them because he doesn't know who's getting what funds. So that money will stay in trust, in his trust account, until the couple can figure that out. And very often they need those funds in moving. Sure. Because either they need them for their rent or to purchase a property. The other thing they often need to know, so often when you're selling a property, and you purchase another property, depending on the closing dates of the two properties, sometimes you have to bridge a mortgage, right? Because you don't have the funds to close on your mortgage. Right. Well, you can't bridge on two properties. So if they're not aware of that, and they don't have a mortgage agent that specializes in divorce, which is something we have connections with, and we strongly recommend our clients connect with one of those if they're going to go purchase a property. They could go ahead and each party could go and buy a house thinking that they're going to have funds to bridge on, and that might be a problem in the end, which is why one of the things that we do is we have a whole community of professionals that are specializing in this niche. It's a growing niche, unfortunately, but our job is not solely to sell their house, but it's really to help connect them with all the people in the different industries that they're going to need to come across, maybe not on day one, but throughout their journey to get to the other side. So those are just a couple of things. As I mentioned, very often you can get an offer and both parties don't agree. They can disagree. They can have, you can have arguments on, well, how are we preparing the house for sale? One might say, well, I'm not going to paint the house, but the other one says they want to. And so who's paying for this? Are the lawyers aware of what investments are being put in? Because those will need to get all accounted for at the end of the day when you're selling the property. Is one party living in the property? Is that party going to allow for showings? Because if they don't, then that's another issue. So there's all these little intricacies that you take for granted. Obviously, if a couple is selling their house, they're going to allow for showings. They're going to put the investments. They're going to make sure that the house is ready for a showing. What happens if the party that's living there really doesn't want to sell the house? And they allow for a showing, but the house is a mess when there's a showing. Well, that's the detriment of the other party. Lawyers have to get involved in all these things.
Sabotage, yes.
Sabotage.
Yes. Understand, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Before we go any further, why don't you let us know how people can find you and access your services?
Oh, thank you so much. So I'm located in the Toronto area in Canada, but we do help people all over because, as I said, not every real estate agent specializes in this. So we're happy to work with a regular real estate agent in your area to help guide them through the divorce aspects. So if they want to reach out to us, they can email me. My name is Robyn, ROBYNYACK @gmail.com. Our website is Robyn, ROBYNAND, Cheryl, CHERYL, .com. So robynandcheryl.com. And we're on Instagram and Facebook at Robyn and Cheryl Real Estate. And on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, so it's like you do consulting work for the professionals that someone may already be working with to make sure that mortgage questions are answered and tax questions related to some of these things, and so that everything is working smoothly together. And it's another headache to take off the list among all the details that someone is dealing with when you're going through a mortgage.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
it's a very emotional experience, and we want to make sure that it's as easy for them as possible.
we certainly know it's a very emotional experience, and you're right, making it easy is a real blessing at a time when you're in high anxiety and stress and all of that. Is there something that I didn't ask you about that's an important question, another piece of the puzzle that you want to clarify for us?
One of the things that we do try and tell people is there's a difference, at least here in Canada, and I would think that there's some differences as well in the States, whether you're actually formally married or you're living common law. And so we suggest that if you are living common law, you speak to a family lawyer to make sure that your interests in the home are as they should be. Because, so for example, for here, a matrimonial home only applies to a married couple, and the matrimonial home is as an asset that gets equalized. So each party gets half of the equity in the house. Whereas if you're common law, that isn't the case. And a lot of people misinterpret that, and they think that, oh, well, if we're common law for a year or 3 years, that we do have that same right to the house, and you actually don't. So I don't know what the laws are in the different states, but I do suggest that if you are living common law or about to embark on a common law relationship and are purchasing a home or living in a home that you think you might have an equity in, you should check that out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Before we do have to go, what are your last quick thoughts about doing all of this with children, and how are they impacted by your real estate decisions?
Yeah, so I have a daughter myself. She was shy of 3 when we moved. Well, we got separated. We lived together for a little bit after. And you know what? I honestly feel that whatever you're going to decide for the home for your children, they are resilient. Children are resilient. And as long as, remember, they felt the issues going on between you and your ex-spouse, and moving into, whether it's moving into an actual physical new home or staying in the home, but a new phase of their lives, yes, it's going to be different. And yes, there is a transition period, but seeing both of you happier is what will make them happy. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, I think you're right. The happiness of the children makes a huge difference. So they adapt so much more easily when they are being attended to and know that they're loved and that they matter. So that's very, very important. I'm delighted that we had this conversation. Robyn Yack, you really were very clear and articulate in explaining all the dynamics that we need to keep in mind. So this has been a wonderful talk together, and I appreciate your joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Great. So this is Rosalind Sedacca, and I invite you to visit childcentereddivorce.com to get more access to tips and insights and resources, tools, and ebooks, courses, and programs, as well as my one-on-one coaching services. And I work anywhere in the world to help people make the best decision before, during, and long, long after divorce to protect their children. I hope you'll join us next time on Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with Rosalind Sedacca. Thank you.